Welcome to another OCD Recovery Instagram Live. I thought I'd come on here quickly and do some questions and answers because I haven't been on here for a week doing that. So anything you want to ask in relation to OCD that you want to cover in question format on here now, I'm happy to do that. So put your questions in the comments below and I will cover those things on here now. Is OCD curable? Well, currently at this point in time, is not curable. Recovery is where you can't tell the difference between having OCD or not, but curable, no. Do I think? Well, I did this talk just the other day on here about what Elon Musk is talking about with Neuralink, where they will possibly be able to cure OCD by putting in this little chip that will go inside the skull into the brain, and they'll be able to then keep an eye on things like, well, not keep an eye, they'll be able to sort of change things from people who are paralyzed to people with all kinds of mental health, mental illness, and be able to change that. And so I think that will make a big difference. I think that could possibly be the cure for OCD, along with things like, well, you should check out the video. It's on my YouTube channel, Future Treatments for OCD, and I cover all about that. I think that will be when it changes. Now, definitely, there is no cures. You'll get people saying there's cures all the time. So you'll get people saying, "Oh, just eat this diet, drink this. I did this 7-day course." It's all absolute crap. You can't do that. If that was the case, trust me, I'd have done it. And I can also tell you that the amount of OCD that I'm around all the time with people and anything that's going on, I see most things that are to do with OCD all the time. So if there was a cure, I would know about it. And there definitely isn't. Okay, let's have a look at some of these questions. But recovery is where you can't tell the difference between if you have it or not. So it makes no difference. I don't cover broad questions on here like how to recover from OCD or how to how to recover from OCD or a whole topic on a specific theme. I'll only cover things that are quite targeted that I can answer in 1 or 2 questions rather than things that need like a whole Instagram live just specifically for them. What to do when your OCD goes from theme to theme? It morphs. Well, you just allow it to do that. You know, recovery involves that. You're always looking to sort of have cracked it, get over one thought, and then be like, right, I'm done, no more OCD. And that's not how OCD works, okay? So you're looking at a situation where with OCD that I've just literally finished a massive spaghetti carbonara just now. For anyone who says on here that I only eat pizzas, I definitely had something different today. Now I wanted to say to you about morphing is that it will morph to anything. Okay, it's going to think any single thought that you can think of, it's going to morph to. And if you're waiting for it to be gone, it's waiting to jump and get the next thing. So anything you can think of, anything, any thought, it's going to move to. So recovery is where whatever it moves to, it doesn't matter. You never get, if someone says, people often say things like, "Oh, I've recovered from," yes, we've recovered from such and such, like one type of OCD. But that's not recovery, because recovery's got to be where all of the OCDs don't matter, you know? And all OCDs are just thoughts. I mean, I hate to even use themes most of the time, but they're such a good way of describing often what people are going through that I do use the themes as a description. But they can become very conflicting because people then think, "Oh my God, I had ROCD, now I've got POCD, and now I've got this other OCD. God, I'm in so much trouble." Well, you're not in so much trouble. Nothing's changed. You've just had OCD, and it's all the same. It's just you've heard different things, and you've just moved through a range of things that it goes through. I mean, I'm around thousands of OCD thoughts all day long, and people's fears and situations, and people being stuck with something with OCD for years and years and years, and all kinds of horror stories in the OCD world. I'm seeing those all the time. So you know, it's about exposing. If you try and run from things, that's never the answer. You're never going to get through it by running. Now let's have a look at the next thing. Could you explain the concept of getting underneath the fear? I'm struggling to put it into practice. Getting underneath, I'm talking about accepting the worst case scenario, as well as learning unconditional self and life acceptance, which if you look through this account and the books on the reading list explains about that. False memories are just the same. They're exactly the same. It's just another way that it's trying to catch you. Why is OCD worse during lockdown? We haven't got any distractions, so you're stuck with your OCD all the time, and because of that, being stuck, you know, it's not. Look, there's lots of things going on at the moment. You've got you've got no distraction. You're around your family. People are frustrated. They're waiting to get back to normal life. There's anxiety. You've got more time to think in your head and go through all things like that. So that's obviously a problem. But then you've got so many other things, like if you get ill or you suffer from health OCD, you might worry, for example, oh my God, I can't go to a hospital, I can't go to see a doctor because of my situation with the COVID in the hospitals. There's loads of things like that. Like, take for example, I get hay fever, not very bad, but I've got it at the moment. And a lot of people, for example, they might have hay fever right now, and then they might think, oh God, maybe I can't breathe, or maybe I have an allergic reaction to something, or whatever. And what they will then do is they then might think, well, my God, I can't go to hospital, or shall I go to hospital? And then when I go to hospital, did I get COVID, or did I put my family at risk? Or you say you've got all the harm OCD in there. Did I put my family at risk with COVID? Did I, what other things have you got? You've got so many variations. Did I contaminate? Did the food that come into the house, did I get COVID from that? Did I take a risk by ordering takeaway? Did I, just so many versions of existential, you know, with astronauts when they go to the moon. They always have a situation where they kind of get a solipsism-like state, an existential, where they feel on their own, like separate from the planet, obviously, because they are. And that can be the same with quarantine. You can feel very separate, and so that can trigger a lot of existential fears based on the sort of the way we're viewing the world through this sort of not normal state that we're in at the moment. So you still suffer from OCD? No, I don't suffer from OCD. I had OCD very badly for years. If you follow this account, you can read all about it. I had OCD very badly for years, and I was stuck in it, locked on one theme, morphing themes, everything. And I recovered where I can't tell the difference between if I have OCD or not now. But obviously, OCD is not curable. So you will notice it try and catch on one or two things for seconds, but I never get a period where I'm stuck for days with OCD. It never happens. I live my life absolutely fully. I can't tell. I've got no chronic anxiety, no physical symptoms, nothing. They can come on, like Claire Weekes says, which is a very good point. One of the pioneers of anxiety, Dr. Claire Weekes, his book, Self-Help for Your Nerves, she used to say that sometimes you'd get like a panic attack come on for no reason in the middle of the night. That can happen. Rarely happens, but it does happen. Sometimes I wake up and I notice I've got a racing heart or anxiety. That's just because the brain sort of subconsciously can bring up that memory in some way, so it can do that at night. So that can happen to me. But I don't care if it happens. I couldn't care less if I was anxious. Other things like maybe no guilt stuff because of the self-acceptance. Guilt never gets me. Sometimes with a health thing, if I have a particular health worry that's a genuine worry, sometimes on those it takes a while just to get back under the rational beliefs and I can feel the anxiety on there. Existential, sometimes a little bit. The existential tries to catch me when I'm watching stuff on future developments, things in relation to things. It sometimes tries to catch me, but very, very short. Never gets a grip for too long. I'd say probably health and existential sometimes briefly grabs, but the grab is so light. I mean, if you said to me right now, okay, how have you been feeling? Have you been stuck with it? I mean, I could still do everything the same. You wouldn't see any difference, and I wouldn't really see a massive difference. But it will come out. I don't think you're ever going to meet an OCD sufferer who says that they never have any anxiety at all. I mean, all humans are going to have anxiety, but you're going to experience some sort of abnormal level at times because you're not going to be perfect. If you've got a disorder like OCD, sometimes it's going to be there. But how much does that affect my life? Zilch. Couldn't make any difference. I've got, say, eczema, for example, that I get sometimes. That is probably more debilitating than the OCD that I ever get. So it's very relevant. Any advice for morning anxiety? You're going to get anxiety in the morning for two reasons. I mean, one is because your brain's just sort of waking up, it's going through its patterns of waking up, phasing out of being sort of asleep. So you'll notice it, and the brain's, I can't remember how accurate this 100% is, but I think it's got something to do with, in the past, through evolutionary times, we used to, when we'd be asleep and there might have been a tiger or something lying in a bush, that obviously when we wake up we're looking for predators, looking for dangers. So obviously it turns up because it's looking for that, and it's catching on to anything that's a threat. But I'm not sure 100% if that's fact. But there is other things in relation to anxiety in the morning. Is we wake up and we want we want to wake up fresh, and we're in bed. So say for example, if you're out, it's very easy if you're out. If you're out with friends, it's very easy. Say you're in a bar or whatever. It's very easy to not notice you're anxious because there's so much stuff going on in your environment. Whereas when someone is in bed sleeping, it's much more difficult to see that situation, because what happens is they're just lying there in their bed, and because they're just lying there, they can feel everything, and they remember what lying in bed feels like. So they've got it's a good position for them to remember how they felt in the past when they haven't been anxious. It's a good sort of measuring thing. Same as what I used to say on here often is I used to say, but when I used to go to the hairdressers, I often used to sit in front of the mirror there and then sort of gauge anxiety levels and say, right, okay, well I was here 6 months ago, 3 months ago, whatever, or years ago, looking back and thinking, okay, I was this anxious then, and I was anxious here the year before, and then thinking, God, I've been anxious in this chair every single time in the years that I was suffering. So you will notice things like this in those moments. So that's a little bit to do with the morning anxiety. What to do when exposures do not work? Exposures, they have to be repeated to get in there, but if there's a strong irrational belief, you're scared of things, like obviously if someone's scared of dying, no amount of health OCD exposures will often get under that. They have to change their perspectives on death and so on, and that relates to so many different fears, especially with harm OCD. Learning about self-acceptance, trying to do it otherwise. You can't just watch endless programs of people in jail or people who've committed different crimes. That doesn't really get under it. It helps take the edge off, but you really need to get under it better with the unconditional self-acceptance. Count literally saved me last summer. That's always good. Always like to hear those things. That's great to hear. Well, thoughts are going to go against your values. Question about values. People get too caught up in values. I know it's mentioned a lot with values, but be careful, because obviously OCD is going to latch to values, and it's going to go, okay, anything you care about, bang, 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 go for values. Look, values is you've got to take it with, okay, I would like to do these kinds of things. I would like to have those kind of behaviours. But alas, if I don't, it's not the end of the world, right? Otherwise, if we could never get under values, no one would ever recover from harm OCD, because hurting someone or something like that's obviously against values. So we have to get under that. That's where unconditional self and life acceptance comes really well into those points. Why does OCD feel so real? Because if OCD didn't feel real, it wouldn't be a disorder. Reading list, I put it up on Instagram stories regularly, but it is also on the Instagram page if you scroll down. Is it common for OCD to work in past tense? Yes, because it knows the past can't be changed, so it likes to latch in there to keep you stuck. Fear of schizophrenia exposures. I'll cover that in a separate topic. I think I've got a schizophrenia OCD YouTube video, but I can't remember off the top of my head, but otherwise I will cover schizophrenia in its own separate topic. I often talk about it, but I will cover it in its separate topic. OCD that focuses on sleep. I've definitely got on YouTube videos about sleep, and there's lots of posts on my Instagram page about sleep. It's all about you being scared of not being able to sleep and trying to control it, and that's what's most likely keeping you up. So check those videos out. How can you tell the difference between an OCD thought and a real thought? You can't. If we could just do that and it worked, we would be able to get rid of OCD. You have a rough idea, but then OCD then hijacks it and often makes you completely convinced that it's real and completely focused on that. We have a rough idea, but being able to silence it by that way, we can't do it. How to deal with panic attacks? You've got to get used to panic attacks coming in and saying bring them on. You've got to really mean it. Recovery from panic attacks is basically really meaning it. So when they come on, it's like, come on, I don't care, knock me down, knock me on the floor, leave me on the floor. That's when I recovered from panic attacks. I was in Miami. It was maybe 15 years ago. I was in South Beach. I'd taken my girlfriend at the time on holiday there, and it was lovely. It was really lovely. I love Miami, and I had just developed panic disorder. I was having panic attacks all the time, but I didn't know at the time that it was me trying to run from them that was a problem. I was spending the whole time trying to run from them, thinking I could stop them and everything like that, but I couldn't. So the most important thing is going into the eye of the storm, just going with the attitude, fuck it, bring it on, and let it basically kill me. Let it, whatever, even if I die here, so be it. You know, that's the attitude. You reference that you no longer deal with guilt through self-acceptance. Is there a flagship source for that kind of work? Yeah, we'll start with the reading list and the first book on there, How to Stubbornly Refuse to Make Yourself Miserable About Anything, by the founder of CBT, Albert Ellis. It's a good place to start with that book in terms of reading about learning to accept yourself in relation to guilt-related things. Can you have OCD about anything? Yes, absolutely anything. How did I develop unconditional self-acceptance? Well, you develop unconditional self-acceptance by practicing it. By practicing it over and over. Books are a great place to start. Will really help you with that. Can sexual orientation make you think that it can make you feel anything. OCD can make anything feel as real as possible. Any more than that becomes compulsion and reassurance. Do the English say holiday instead of vacation? Yeah, a lot of them say vacation now. I say vacation a lot. I say a mixture of them. What do you think the general perception of OCD to non-sufferers? I think people are more aware of it now. I think it gets more attention, but it's still obviously in the dark. I don't get too frustrated like a lot of people do in the OCD community about people making a mistake about OCD and not. I do a lot of work to make sure that people are aware of what OCD is like, but the real OCD instead of the nonsense Kardashian type OCD. But in terms of the public, I can understand why they don't understand it, the same as we don't understand all the different diseases that could go on in the body or that someone's experiencing. But so we work to change it, but there's no point being mad and screaming at them, because how the hell are they going to know? They don't know, they haven't been educated on it. Very easy mistake to make. But when they're actively not helping out by pursuing it, to get known, then we have to do the work to get it changed. That's the key. Is it OCD or denial? Well, your fear is being in denial. So that's where it is. We need to go towards learning to accept, even if you were in denial, why that wouldn't be the end of the world, and even if you made the wrong mistake, made a mistake on your sexuality and got it wrong. And I think that's very important. You've got to cover all the different angles there, but don't try and bolt down the acceptance. It's a sort of flowing process. Hey Antonio, good to see you on Instagram Live. Antonio's a good example of somebody come from a very difficult situation in Mexico with coming to me when he'd had deep brain stimulation and hadn't recovered, and then working with me to get better. And is a great example of that, of how OCD treatment is still in the dark ages in a lot of places. And people search, for anything to get better, as Antonio was, and then he's now in a much better position. So he's going to be talking about that in his story, I think, later this week on my Instagram page. How much time did your OCD thoughts take when you were suffering? How many hours a day? All day, 24/7, every second, every minute. There was no off times. It was just in it all the time. That was my world. You can't just say. People used to say to me,
different therapists at the time, they used to say to me things like, well, just set back some worrying time, some time you're going to worry. That didn't fucking work, because if I could do that, I would just say to myself, right, next week I'll worry about it and I'll have this week off. So it doesn't work like that. Can the relief of thinking that you have OCD actually a sign that you're in Can the relief of thinking that your OCD actually is a sign that you're in Your fear is denial. That's why you keep going back to that. It's reassurance. Okay. Kardashian type OCD. Yeah, I was referring to that Chloe OCD nonsense, which is just the same as the normal type of OCD. Tidiness, quirk for tidiness, which gets taken out. People start to, it gets covered in the media as that, and it's dangerous because obviously then people can think that it's just a quirk for tidiness when it isn't. It's a really debilitating disorder. How do I get people to stop reassuring me? They won't, because I go on so much because the OCD is so strong. Well, if you're going on, you've got to refrain from that, but you've also got to tell them that it's not going to help you. So then you need to be really strict with them, but you've got to be strict with it too. Because if you're begging them all the time and putting them in a situation where they feel they have to, OCD recovery takes tough love from the family. The family have to get behind you and have to cut out reassurance. Reassurance is the OCD sufferer's drug. The drug is certainty. That's what they want. Certainty is an illusion, as Voltaire said. Certainty is absurd, is what he said. You can't get certainty, and reassurance gives you this sort of little drip feeding of feeling comfort when you're not getting comfort. You're not getting treatment. You're just getting a tiny dose, which then gets less and less, and then doesn't even work. And so you chase that because it once delivered you relief in the past. So we definitely don't want to go down that path because it's not going to work. Okay, I think that covers all the points I wanted to mention on here. I will see you on the next Instagram Live. All right, guys, see you later.